Guys, happy Friday. Today I'm going to talk about the 9 criterias for borderline personality disorder, and I'm going to debunk them from a personal perspective. If you're new to the channel, I was falsely diagnosed with borderline personality disorder back in 2010, and I'm not a mental health professional. I'm just a 20-year veteran of the mental health industrial complex, and I got a few things to say. I've seen a lot. Okay, so let's get right into it. I'm like super triggered. I definitely am having some mania. I saw my therapist yesterday, and she definitely noted the mania stuff. So, but I've been taking Zyprexa, and I think I'm doing okay. I'll get through this, guys. As long as the depression doesn't set in, I'll be okay. Okay, so the 9 criterias of borderline personality disorder are: fear of abandonment, unstable relationships, unstable self-image, impulsivity, self-harm or suicidal behaviors, emotional instability, chronic feelings of emptiness, inappropriate or intense anger, and stress-related paranoia and disassociation. Oh, another thing, guys, if you're like new to this channel, I'm a big stoner. And I smoke while I make videos, okay? Because resistance to the system. Okay. Fear of abandonment. Now, fear of abandonment is really interesting, because I don't think that's a trait that I identified with, but the system thought I did. And it's because I have a history of abusive relationships with men. And I would always be the one to leave the relationship. One might think that's like empowering to leave. But the system, this is what they said. This is what my therapist said. She said that I was dumping people first out of fear of abandonment because I was afraid of being dumped. Now the first guy I dumped when I was in that program was cheating on me with like 5 girls. And I was like, okay, I get it. I wasn't really all that upset. I mean, I was like obsessed with that guy too. And then, I started to realize he had a lot of side chicks, and I was kind of like, okay, and honestly, I broke up with him over text. I didn't even give him the respect of breaking up with him in person, because I was like, this guy isn't serious. He's a man-child. So, she used that against me. And then my second boyfriend that I had, that I dumped in that program, is the one I talk about on here a lot. You know, my work circle in more recent years knew who he was because he started stalking me at work, at one point. So he was I dumped him. And I remember sitting at my friend's house one day, and they got me to go over there and break up with him. And then when I got there, I didn't break up with him, but I ended up breaking up with him. And that got used against me. So that's just an example of how the system can like manipulate circumstances. So, okay, unstable relationships. Yes, I had very unstable relationships with my family. There was like a lot going on. I feel like I was doing everything right. Like, okay, once again, I had left an abusive relationship, and I moved up here back to Michigan with my son. And, my relationships were rather unstable due to the fact that, I didn't have a lot of, like, emotional support. Everybody, I just didn't have encouragement anywhere. I was doing everything under the guise of being bad. And my relationships were unstable because the majority of them were abusive. And I had not learned that yet in life. And it was just how my life was. So my relationships were unstable because they were abusive. Okay. Unstable self-image. I can identify with this one. I have a pretty stable self-image now. Like, I complain about my weight on here a lot. That it's as soon as I started taking that Zyprexa again, my weight just freaking tripled. I mean, not really, but I've accepted the fact that I'm a little bit large right now, so I went and bought some clothes that fit my body, and that way if I lose weight, then I still have some clothes, and I can just sort of buy one outfit a week to deal with what I'm going through. At least then I'll look good in my clothes and I'll feel confident. So, but back in those days, I come from a really fat-phobic environment. Family was very fat-phobic. I think that was just kind of the boomer generation, and especially the silent generation. Fat phobia goes back like 100 years or more. But I never fit the image. Honestly, guys, I think no matter what I looked like, I think I would have been picked on about it. That's just how my upbringing was. Your body was there to be judged. And they think it's like a moral thing. And society does this too. Like, they think that your weight equates to morals, but it actually doesn't. It has nothing to do with it. And then also, on the flip side, I developed bulimia and anorexia. I got really skinny. And I would say my image was the most unstable during the skinny times because I was obsessed with it. And, I mean, I had it in my head that I was good, you know? So, and you gotta understand, when you're told your whole life by everybody that you're fat, because when I was a kid, like, adults, like, really thought it was their place to come up and talk to me about my weight. And later on in life, when I lost weight, everybody still talked about my weight. It was like you want to talk about no identity? My weight was how people viewed my identity. So yes, I had a very unstable self-image. I've been able to like work through that because now I understand that how you look's not really important. Like when I learned that from customer service, because when you're in customer service, you're going to wait on people that are all different types of socioeconomic levels, and what it comes down to is how you treat each other. So that's something that I got over through working in customer service. That was very helpful. Now, the impulsivity. Okay, I'm a lot more self-aware about my impulsivity now, because I know with mania, you can be really impulsive. So spending would be one of my criterias, I'd say, and sex. When I'm usually hypomanic, I get hypersexual. TMI. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about self-harm. Okay, so self-harm and suicidal ideation or behaviors. So I was bulimic at the time. So that's a self-harm behavior, and it's very addictive. And I did have an unaliving attempt, but I wasn't always preoccupied with the idea of suicide. And when you have that BPD diagnosis, they act like you're obsessed with the idea of unaliving, and it's just not true. I think my instance was circumstantial, and I also got help. I reached out, and I don't think I ever self-harmed when I was in that program. So I don't think I identify so much. Okay, like when I'm depressed, when I'm having like a mixed episode, I do get unaliving thoughts that are pretty intense. But I always reach out for help, and I always tell somebody, because I know it's not normal to think that way. And back then, I didn't have that mindset, so I wasn't able to recognize this particular red flag. Okay, so let's talk about emotional instability. Okay, so I learned this on the chat GPT, like in a feminist criticism. So I would go to therapy and cry because I thought it was a safe place. That's where I would go dump all my emotions, okay? And instead of this lady being like, let's work through this, she was just like, wow, your emotions are dysregulated. Like, what a bitch. That makes me so mad. I go in there with like a legit crisis and she's like, wow, your emotions are dysregulated. You don't have any skills. So emotional instability can be part of bipolar disorder. I think that my emotions, like now that I'm on all these medications and stuff, I don't have emotional dysregulation unless I'm experiencing some manic symptoms, because mania does something to your brain, okay? Like, it's almost like being on drugs. And, it can make you, like, irritable, and that's something I've been dealing with, but I'm also very aware of it, so I'm sort of, like, controlling it, and honestly, I've been smoking weed, and that kind of helps suppress a little bit of that irritability, and I'm trying to let people know what's irritating me instead of keeping it inside. And that comes with consequences, but I'm also very researched and educated about things right now. So, okay. Chronic feelings of emptiness. I think I've dedicated videos to this very topic before. For me, feeling empty is actually an early symptom of psychosis. When I start feeling flat and empty, that's also like a depression thing, and it's usually the result of a mixed episode, and I end up in the hospital when I feel like that. That's a symptom of me going bye-bye, okay? I can't remember, when you have BPD, I can't remember what they blame the emptiness on. They look at it from a perspective of, you feel empty inside? Check. Symptom. They don't help you work through that. They just tell you that you're flawed for feeling that way, and you will be punished. Inappropriate or intense anger. Okay, so this is what I saw on chat GPT about this. Okay, so they call you emotionally dysregulated for reactions to oppression and gendered violence, which is what I was going through. And I think, even looking back, my emotional state was completely appropriate to what was going on. I had been through so much, you guys. Like, I have been on a wild ride, and just a wild ride, man. Okay, we gotta talk about the stress-related paranoia and disassociation. So paranoia is a symptom of psychosis for me, and my paranoia is intense. It's really, really bad. That's usually one of my main complaints when I'm hospitalized, is the paranoia. And, when you have a BPD diagnosis, you are not entitled to psychosis. You're not entitled to have paranoia. You are in fact blamed by having stress in your life. Oh, your paranoia is just stress related and you're not using your skills. That's why you're having it, you know. And then disassociation. This kind of pissed me off in the hospital the last time I was there, because I told them all about this DBT stuff, because I was like in a really bad state of mind when I went in there, and I was talking about all this trauma from the system. And in my notes, in the discharge papers, it said seek DBT skills after I just said that DBT basically ruined part of my life. So there's something, guys. There's something about this. There is an evil that runs within the veins of the BPD diagnosis and the treatment program, DBT. And I will keep uncovering it. And it's important to note, while my therapist at the time was very adamant on getting me on medications for all the wrong reasons, just so she could tolerate me, There's no FDA approved medication for borderline personality disorder, okay? They can try to say it's comorbid, but just from my personal opinion, if you're experiencing psychosis or any of the symptoms that you're seeing here, you need to question. It's not your personality being disordered, okay? There's no normal personality. What makes that therapist so fucking smart and better than you that she can sit there and say your personality is disordered when she's a bitch, okay? Well, I guess that's all I got. So it was really good to talk about all that stuff, and I will see you next time. Bye.